Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Matt Holzaffel.
And I'm Andrew Vandellis. We have a lot of exciting news to cover, so let's jump right into the three strikes.
The Eric Bledsoe situation in Phoenix is finally over, as the star point guard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks for Greg Monroe and picks. The Bucks have struggled in the weak Eastern Conference despite early season MVP candidate Giannis Antetokounmpo leading the league in scoring. Andrew, how does this trade impact the Bucks moving forward this season?
I think it's nothing but positives when you look at this. You give the Bucks finally one of the few real true starters and true veterans in the league that can really carry the weight that Giannis Antetokounmpo, or rather share it, that he's been carrying for the majority of the season. I think it's great, and it takes a lot of pressure off of Giannis. There's nothing but positives.
Yeah, you look at Giannis, he's leading the team in every measurable category with the exception of assists. That's points, rebounds, steals, blocks, minutes even. So he is carrying the load, as he should, as their star player, but he needs a bit more help, and I think they were kind of shifting away from Greg Monroe anyway towards John Henson and Thon Maker at timeshare at that center spot. So when you look at the trade, it was great for the Bucks because they got this all-star caliber player and Eric Bledsoe coming in for basically nothing. They were probably going to move Greg Monroe anyway, and so another thing is when you look at this lineup, Rookie of the Year Malcolm Brogdon doesn't even have a starting spot anymore.
Yeah, that's a tragedy in its own because along with like Middleton and now the inactive Jabari Parker, again, Giannis is left to carry the load of this team. So Eric Bledsoe coming in now allows the Bucks to have two all-star players and even shoot up to potentially the number 2 seed in the East.
And when you look at who's ahead of them, they're currently 8th in the East, but who's ahead of them? Pistons are 2, Magic 3, Knicks 5. These aren't teams that are going to sustain that success for long periods of time over the course of this season. So I think we'll see those teams drop out of the playoff race and the Bucks move up, especially when Parker comes back in late January, early February.
Exactly. Looking at this trade, I see a whole lot of upside for the Bucks and not a lot of downside at all.
Exactly.
After the Seahawks' 22-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals last Thursday, Richard Sherman was diagnosed with a ruptured Achilles and is now done for the year. This has caused many Seahawks players to join a growing contingent arguing that these shortened weeks are harmful to players and cause too many injuries. Considering how many players have been injured, does this mean that Thursday night football should be done with?
I'm going to say no. And first of all, visiting Richard Sherman's injury, I don't think his Achilles tear was due to a lack of rest. It was just a freak play. Obviously, hate to see it. He's a great player who gives 110%. But that aside, TNF Thursday Night Football is not something that is costing these teams, days and days of rest and practice. Teams play at most one Thursday Night Football game a year. And so if you can't play that one game, what are you getting paid for? At most, so Thursday Night Football started in 2006, right? The most games teams have played is 9 games. That's 5 teams: Pittsburgh, Dallas, Denver, Baltimore, and Chicago. So most teams aren't even playing that one game either, playing about 0 on some years versus 1 other years.
Well, you got to look at it this way, too, other than just it not being enough for the players. It's a ratings blunder, Matt. Come on, there's a lack of quality performances, and whenever I'm personally watching Thursday Night Football, I feel that there's no stakes on the line. There's nothing on the line. It's not a big time matchup ever. And on top of that, you have players complaining. You have players complaining.
We looked just the last week. We saw the Seahawks and the Cardinals. These aren't bad teams. These are just teams who are, like you said, maybe tired. But what's at stake,
really? The Cardinals haven't had an upside season.
This is a regular season game where winning is everything.
But the only thing that really came out of it was Richard Sherman getting hurt, and we see this time and time again on Thursday Night Football, where players, primarily Richard Sherman, are complaining.
I think there is a middle ground between canceling it altogether and then having teams continue the way that goes. Maybe that's later in the season where teams are more tired, having teams only coming off their bye week play in TNF, because that gives them more time to rest and relax and recuperate from their last games.
But you know that's not going to be in the mind of CBS or NFL Network or anyone executive-wise in the NFL. And I just think the only thing that's come good about this is Nike getting profits off the Color Rush jerseys, and even that's ticked off a lot of people.
As long as they're making money, these games aren't going anywhere.
Whether
that's
the players like it or not, unfortunately.
Exactly. After months of appeals, overturns, and more twists than you can count, it seems like the Ezekiel Elliot suspension saga is finally over. The Cowboys running back will miss 6 weeks of football, including 2 key matchups with the Redskins and Eagles in the division. The Cowboys are currently 5-3, Andrew, but do they have a chance to stay in the playoff hunt without Ezekiel Elliott?
I'm going to say they barely do because I do think this is Dak Prescott's team, but Ezekiel Elliott is a large part and a large contributor to the offense that the Cowboys have built. Yes, they have a very strong, one of the top 10 offensive lines in the league, but you saw it last week. Alfred Morris only rushed for 53 yards on 11 carries, and Dak had to throw the ball 30 or more times.
And Dallas had a lot of problems besides not running the ball. Adrian Claiborne with 6 sacks by himself. Obviously, the Falcons just dominated when they were on the defensive side of the field. So to me, that says this is not an Ezekiel Elliott problem. This is a Cowboys O-line problem. They were without one of their best offensive linemen, Tyron Smith, due to injury, and they sent Chaz Harris out there that might as well have sent a life-size cutout of Tyron Smith who gave up the same amount of sacks, really, because he just wasn't filling in as well for
Well,
Tyron
let's look
Smith.
at the last 2 wins against the Chiefs and the Redskins. Dak threw the ball 30 times and went 21 for 33 with a pair of touchdowns. And rather, Zeke had a touchdown on 27 carries. And in the Redskins game, Dak threw for 143 yards and Zeke had 150 yards on 33 carries. So when you're looking at
I
it,
don't think anyone's
basically,
questioning.
when Zeke carries the ball more, and takes that pressure off of Dak, it's obviously a better team. So who's to say that this isn't going to affect it? I think it's much more efficient when Zeke is on the field to back him off and take up pressure.
I don't think anyone's questioning that Dak and Zeke make a great combo. It's just that I think they can get it done with Alfred Morris, with Rouse Smith in that backfield.
Well, don't go anywhere, as it's time for our college basketball experts to tip off the season.